Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I will be reviewing Studio Series number 34, Leader Class Megatron. Now, as we always do, we're going to compare Megatron with some previous figures, size compare, and take a look at his box, what the differences are, and finally we're going to transform and compare some other stuff. So, without further ado, let's begin. Now starting with Megatron's, first we're going to start with his body and then check out his accessories and stuff. Now, taking a look at Megatron, what I think about this figure is that it's nice and all, although he does feel a bit flimsy and a bit hollow and stuff. I will mention that later in the review. For display in his robot form is practically amazing, flawless in his robot form. Unfortunately, the feet area is not really that good, or the arms at all. Some things that I do not like about this figure is that he does not really look like how he did in the film. It just looks like just the main color, like Hasbro did a lazy job with this, that they just got like the main color and then just spilled brown color all over. And one thing that I really do like about this figure is that his cloak actually does kind of look like how he does in the film. And if you just place it on his head right here, it does look like there's wind and everything, how he does look like in the film. Now, taking a look at his miniature Igor figure, honestly, this figure is actually what made this Megatron way worth it, because although he never did anything important in the film, I really do like that that the sculpt work with this mini Igor figure is amazing. All the paint applications applied, especially on the eyes and the teeth. His fingers are connected by some ball joints right there. You can attach and detach. You could do the same thing to the other side. Although we never saw his his vehicle form, but I'm not so sure if this little transformer could transform at all. It's just one little piece of plastic with some balls attached, and with a joint that's fused with both of these legs that can go up and down and side to side. Now, taking a look at the next accessory is his blaster, and overall this blaster is actually pretty neat and everything. It does look like how he does how he uses in the film, when he shoots Sentinel Prime to fight Optimus. The paint applications on this is pretty nice and everything, although I would prefer if these hollow gaps right here would be filled. But those, I believe those hollow gaps are to connect Megatron when he's in a car form or robot form. Although I have found no reason why Hasbro couldn't fill up these gaps. But overall, a nice figure. But also one other thing that I don't like is that when you're holding it like this, like I said, the hollow gaps it doesn't look that neat. And if you hold it that side, on this side, it looks nicer and it looks like everything is intact and everything. But on this side, it's just all hollow, and then it's gonna make you feel like there's a piece missing. So I recommend also doing for storage. He does have this tiny little slot right here and this tiny little circular tab right here, which you're just gonna peg into. Just so simple, like that. So, and also to recreate an iconic movie moment in the film, you can get Megatron's arm, swoop it toward the back, and make it look like he's gonna grab his gun, and like when it shows in the film right before he reunites with Soundwave and Starscream. You can even make a stop motion if you have Studio Series 34 Starscream, Studio Series 34 Megatron, number 21 Starscream, and 51 Soundwave. So let's place this to the side. And for the final accessory that came with him is these little chains that are attached to his body. These little chains, actually, they're pretty nice and all. They're really nice, although they kind of look like chains up close if you look at all the detail that is implied, but from far they just look like a bunch of ropes that are just tied around him. Tell me in the comment section down below if you can make these chains look like if they were connected to Devastator. Tell me in the comment section down below, because they do look like a bunch of ropes. All the detail and molding that is applied is pretty amazing for this figure, and makes this figure actually come to life. So without further ado, let's take a look at Megatron and all his features, and after that we're going to do some comparing. So right now, let's start with his head sculpt. His head sculpt is really nice and all. I really do love this battle damage head right here. That is due to the fact when Optimus Prime did shoot Megatron in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and Megatron was not fully repaired in Dark of the Moon, and he does have a big spot right here that is technically kind of missing and kind of not. Although I would have preferred if this was more dented in so that it could look like he's more injured. The head is really nice. I believe it could only go up to like this, these angles, but his arm can go straight and go toward, like, face toward forward. The same thing with the other arm. There's a lot of joints applied to the legs, especially one that's right here. There's a lot of joints down here, right here. You can flip this around. There's a lot of joints around this area. The feet, I know, are pretty nice, but I feel like they're just too bulky, and they're just like, they technically make this figure kind of eh. And I believe Hasbro could have done a way better job and found a better way to transform Megatron in his Mack truck form. Now, taking a look at its sides, it looks nice and all, except that I would prefer if they added more silver paint applications, and all the molding that is applied right here does look nice. The back does look nice and everything, although right here it is technically hollow. There's nothing supporting him. He just tabs inside. The same thing with his legs down here. It is kind of hollow, and I would prefer if Hasbro could have made this spot like thick and like filled it in with plastic and not leave it all hollow and everything. And then if you do not like all the hollowness, I recommend buying an upgrade kit to fix it up, but other than that, it's okay. The back is nice and everything, but I would prefer having Megatron more in his robot form than his vehicle form, because his robot form looks better and his vehicle form is kind of hard to transform, and I'll show you later on in the review how to transform it and everything. And one thing I do like about this figure is his hands. These hands actually have individual fingers that can go like this, but it's just technically his thumb and the rest of his fingers just going like that. On the other hand, Studio Series 31 and 13 Megatron have their fingers going like more like that. Now let's take a look at some other Studio Series for some comparisons. Now for a quick comparison, here we have Studio Series Leader Class 34 Megatron compared to Studio Series number 54 Voyager Class Megatron. Now we can notice all the differences that are implied into both Megatron figures, and we can notice their size and their sculpting and their molding and everything. So first we'll check out their size, and then we'll check on the rest. So if you do have Megatron and both Megatron standing upright, you can totally tell that the Leader Class Megatron is way taller than Voyager Class Megatron, that his head actually passes him, and Megatron's head just makes it toward his chest. The fingers on Voyager Class, on this version of Megatron, do not, unfortunately, they do not move like how this version moves and how the Revenge of the Fallen Megatron version moves. The head is actually quite different due to the fact that Megatron does get beat up in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen and everything. You can see that his head looks complete and smooth and everything, while this version actually looks like damaged and has more spikes and everything. Also, one thing that I did not like about this figure is that they could have made his head more silver and the rest of the body silver like this version of Megatron, but Hasbro I feel like they did a lazy job on this version of Megatron, and they could have made it similar to this version, but unfortunately they did not. Now moving on to our next Megatron to compare. Now we are comparing Leader Class Megatron to Studio Series number 31, Voyager Class Battle Damaged Megatron. And now we can totally tell that there's a lot of differences implied to both Megatrons, especially the sculpting that is applied to their head, their body, their arms, and the legs, and overall I prefer this Megatron version more than this version. Now let's check out their sizes. Now both Megatrons standing upright, we can see that similar to number 54, his head barely makes it right here, but he is a bit taller than the Studio Series number 54, that the top of his head actually makes it to his chin. We can also see that that right here on Battle Damaged Megatron's head, it looks very damaged, and right here not that much because he is getting repaired in Dark of the Moon. We can also see that the sculpt is very different because Megatron actually scans a car instead of using Cybertronian vehicles, and we can totally tell that the molds of the bodies look different. Everything is different. The only thing that they do have a similarity is the fingers do move back and forth and everything, and these just move up and right. And now comparing him to our next Transformers. Now comparing him to Studio Series number 35, Leader Class Jetfire. The big reason I am comparing Jetfire to Megatron, although they do not have any similarities at all, is due to the fact that Jetfire is the Studio Series figure right after Megatron, and is a Leader Class as well, and I wanted to show you the differences between both Leader Classes, whether you have Jetfire or whether you have Megatron or whoever you have. So let's check out the differences. We can totally tell that Megatron is actually way smaller than Jetfire. We can see that Jetfire actually is a bit, toward the head, Jetfire is a bit smaller, but toward the body and everything, Jetfire is larger than Megatron. Also, we can also see that that if this version of Megatron and the Jetfire did show up in the film, like in one film, and they fought together, that would have been the best scene ever. But unfortunately, Jetfire did die in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. But I do think that these figures do go well together, like just having them in your collection right there. I feel like these figures are wonderful. Now, about the size, I think you can extend Jetfire to be way taller, because his legs do extend around the joints and everything. Megatron, this is the tallest Megatron can get, but I still feel like Megatron is way too big. This version of Megatron is way too big, and the big reason for that I'm gonna show you in a moment. I'm going to show you in a moment why he's way too big. But before we do that, I need to also show you that Jetfire's weapons are compatible with only this version. I mean this Megatron's hand. Only his axe can go inside and everything, but it doesn't look all that good, and his cane can go inside as well, but like I said, it does not look that good. So now comparing him with what I think will be the best comparison in the video. And now, what comparison of Megatron wouldn't include Optimus Prime and Sentinel Prime in the comparison? Now, as I said a few seconds ago, that Megatron is way too big is because, just look, Optimus Prime is barely near the elbow length with elbow length of Megatron's elbows, and so is Sentinel Prime. And if you do remember in the film, Optimus Prime and Sentinel Prime should be about as big as Megatron. One thing they could have fixed is make Optimus Prime and Sentinel Prime bigger, or make Megatron a bit shorter, and made him the size of Studio Series 31 Voyager Class Megatron. Battle Damaged Megatron. They could have made him at least that size, or the size of movie number 1 Megatron, which would have made everything better. But unfortunately, Hasbro made this version of Megatron way too big. I mean, like way too big. And even if you look at the descriptions and everything, it says figures height replicates the Transformers Dark of the Moon universe. Well, I disagree right here. I mean, Optimus Prime is way too short, and so is Sentinel Prime. And what they could have done, they could have just made these figures a bit bigger, or made Megatron a bit smaller. But overall, I would not like having them together. But if you want to make a stop motion for the scene when Optimus Prime decapitates Megatron and kills Sentinel Prime, okay, go right ahead. But I would seriously use 48 Megatron, which is actually the same size and mold and everything, but comes with a gray color scheme instead of a dirt color scheme. Now, moving on to our final comparison. And now here's our final comparison. And what comparison would it have the Transformers that appeared in Megatron's iconic movie scene? Studio Series 21, Starscream, and Studio Series 51, Deluxe Class Soundwave. Now, one thing that one thing about the height of Megatron is that Starscream and Megatron's height is perfect and everything. The height is perfect. Let me just move Soundwave to the side for now. As we can see, the height of both of these figures is perfect in all aspects. But now, what about Soundwave? Now, let's just put Starscream to the side for now and move Soundwave inside here. We can see Soundwave is very, very, very small, and his head barely makes it up to where Megatron's fingers are. And if I do remember correctly, in the film, Soundwave is about this tall. Is about like this tall, and can look at Megatron like instead of just having his head upward like that, you could have his head a little bit more like that. And they could have made, like I said before, they could have made Megatron smaller, or Soundwave, they could have made him a little bit bigger. But also, due to the fact that Soundwave is about the same size of Bumblebee, maybe that's why they couldn't make Soundwave a bit bigger, because Soundwave is already the size of Bumblebee. But I would have preferred if they actually made this version of Megatron a bit shorter, so that it can make the iconic movie scene, which I'll show you in the backdrop in a bit, with all these three figures. We could have made this iconic movie scene way very good, like way worth it. Now let's move on to his box and the backdrop and everything. And now, taking a look at Megatron's backdrop, we can totally tell that his backdrop actually replicates the whole scene in Transformers Dark of the Moon, where Megatron has a secret hideout in the African savannah, where he reunites with Studio Series Starscream and Soundwave. And now let's take a look at the contents of the backdrop. Now, if we look closely, we can see a tree right here. There was a hawk nesting toward it, but the hawk was unfortunately killed by Laserbeak, which does show up in the film, shooting a hawk. We can also see some trash cans on like barrels of oil and stuff like that, where Igor is jumping upon it, and where Megatron does have like a bunch of baby little mini Decepticons around there. If you want to recreate the iconic movie scene, you can, where Igor says, "My master," you can make him move around and everything. We can see, I believe that is Mount Kilimanjaro in the back. We can see it in the back. We can see a large net. We can see all the stuff that is technically looks kind of destroyed, which is probably all the stuff Megatron probably stole in Africa and so on. Now let's take a look at his box. And now, taking a look at his box, the box is amazing. We can see a nice CGI picture of Megatron right here with his cloak and everything, with his hands clenched, looking for revenge against Optimus Prime and the Autobots. Right here we can see a nice picture of Megatron with the Studio Series number 34 and the large Studio Series letters. And on the back of the box, I think it's amazing. We can see some product images of Studio Series 34 Megatron, and we can see a tiny product image of number 35 Leader Class Jetfire. Now, the product images, if you look at it carefully, do look very different than the actual figure. We can see that it does kind of look with a greenish, kind of brownish, with some brown paint applications. The brown paint applications are nice and all. And if you grab your figure right now, you can totally tell that it does not look like how the box does. You can see that this is a more of a, just like a beige brown plasticish. We can also see that everything right here is very detailed, every little mark and everything, where the actual figure did not have that much details. The back of the box does show what the toy is about. His iconic movie scene is the Serengeti hideout, and from his secluded African-based Megatron schemes with his Decepticon followers. He transforms in 30 steps from a robot to a Mack truck. And he comes with his backdrop and everything. Now I'm taking a look at the final side, which I think is the best side of the box. Is we see Megatron on in his robot form, in his CGI robot form, running toward, like if he was running toward, and we could see a miniature Igor CGI form right there. And I believe the CGI form looks very good, and the toy not that much. So without further ado, let's start to transform. Megatron in his car. Okay, so now we're going to transform Megatron into his Mack truck form. Now, the first thing you're gonna have to do is take Megatron and take off his cloak, put it to the side for now. Do the same with his blaster accessory and the chains. His little miniature Igor figure, I'll explain where to put him later in the review. Now let's start to transform him. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is take his legs, go toward the back, and then make sure that these parts do separate from right there, and make sure this tab with spikes does tab down and does flip that way. And then you're going to do the same process to the other side. Take it out, make sure that it tabs outside, make sure it's all straight. Okay, so now you're gonna have to take his feet, put them upward, and then his toes, you're gonna have to make sure they flip around. And like that. And then you're gonna have to flip his feet. Like, you're gonna have to flip his feet so that the wheels can touch the ground. After that, take out these wheels right here. Make sure that they're taken out, although they may return back to their designated slot again, because this, like I said, this figure is difficult to transform, and I recommend having him just in his robot form and not transforming him at all. So right now I'm going to show you how to transform him Right now I'm going to show you how to put the tab in his legs, like so. So right now I adjusted the camera and fixed his legs up a little bit. Just remember to have his knees facing toward you, so that it could be easier for it to transform. So now let's take a look at the back. Make sure that these little tabs that look like Legos do fold out and everything. After that, make sure that the legs do connect to each other. All the pieces do connect. And one thing, you have to take this thing down, which is like the smoke pipes of the Mack truck. You're gonna have to take it out gently. Make sure that they're pointed out. Now there are several slots and tabs. You're just gonna have to tab in with their corresponding parts. So you're just gonna have to tab every single part inside until everything clicks together. Just make sure it's there, tabbed inside. Make sure the bottom as well is tabbed and everything. Make sure every single little piece is tabbed, and these pieces will eventually try to go back inside. Just gently take them out and tab them back into together. As I said before in the review, it is quite difficult to transform him, but just don't give up. Okay, so now his legs are done, which is the front part of the car, which looks nice and everything, looks stupendous and everything. And like I told you before, these parts will just keep deattaching, just keep putting them back together. It is a bit difficult to put him in his car form, like I said before, but just keep trying and make sure everything is clicked together and nicely. I think one step is that you make sure that his knees do face toward that way, and do the same thing to the other side. Make sure that they are. I do recommend doing that. I believe that's how the instructions are. I haven't checked them in a bit, but. And then right now I disconnected them all on accident. Now just reconnect them like we did before. Just make sure everything slides inside. The reason I rotated the legs is because where Megatron's toes, so that where they are, so that they could have an easier way to connect and everything. So you're just gonna have to push them in like that. See, easy. Okay. Okay, so now we have the now we have the front part of the car done. Now let's move on to the back. Now this is the majority of where most of Megatron's body is. So the first thing you're gonna have to do is take Megatron's chest plate, tab it out, make sure that it folds out. Right now you saw that this part did deattach. Just simply push it back in and reattach it so that it can be complete. Then after that, make sure that this neck joint right here, where Megatron's head is, just push it down like that and just tab it inside there. Okay, so after that, just keep the chest plate right here for now. Then after that, make sure that these little panels right here, tab them out, and then rotate them like that, and then do the same. Then you're gonna push them back like that. But first, before you push them back, make sure that this piece right here does untab right here. Okay, you saw how it deattached? Well, it is basically kind of impossible and really hard to transform Megatron into his Mack truck form, like I said before. Pieces will keep deattaching and everything. And it is incredibly hard to reattach them back. Especially this piece that I deattached. There. Right there. So make sure, once it's done and everything, make sure that the pieces like that, make sure it's attached and everything. Then, like I showed you before, push his arm inward like that. Make sure that it's pushed inside. Then you're going to do the exact same process to the second arm. So unclip it from here. Make sure it goes straight. There. Right now it's straight. Then after that, untab right here. And as you probably noticed, the legs did deattach again. That is one major flaw I do have about this figure. One thing I do not like about it, but it's okay. And then do the same process we did to the first arm, to the second arm. And then after that, as maybe your legs have deattached, just reattach them together like so. There are many tabs and slots. You just have to connect them all. Make sure that they all do connect to each other. In my opinion, I feel like Hasbro could have done a better job in molding this part and made him transform way different. And because in the film we do see that the front part of Megatron's truck form does turn into Megatron's chest, which just goes inside Megatron's chest. I wonder why Hasbro couldn't have done that. If they made a Megatron from the Revenge of the Fallen version way better than this version and made him more accurate, they could have done the same thing for this version of Megatron. but I believe Hasbro did a lazy job with this part, and it is entirely incredibly impossible to attach, but just keep pegging it into the slots right here. Make sure that everything does peg in. So there is a circular slot and a circular tab. Just push it in like that. do the same right here. There's these little pieces that I said they look like Legos. Just push them in. Just push them inside and there. And make sure that all these pieces do tab in and everything. Okay, so now as this part is done now we can move on to the front part, the back part of the truck. So basically what you gotta do is push in his arms like that. Make sure that the chest, it does tab out like that. Do the same thing to the other arm. And then this back piece, deattach it. Make sure that it's deattached so that you can transform Megatron. Then after that, push in his arms inside the body. Just push them inside his body. And do the same process to the second arm. So you're just gonna want to tab them inside. And there. Make sure that the back part looks like this. Make sure that everything clicks on the back and everything. Now, as the arms are pushed in, they are going to tab into many slots and everything. So, the first thing you're going to have to do is make sure everything at the bottom is clicked, like I said before, so that you can transform in this step. Then after that, there's this little tab right here that will peg into the slot that's gonna go inside. Just make sure that the arm is pushed in all the way, and after that, push it inside and there. Do the same process to the second arm. So you're gonna have to make sure it's pushed all the way in, and make sure this thing make sure that it's pushed in, and then after that, tab it inside that little slot that I showed you a few seconds ago. Just tab it inside. As you probably saw, it deattached, but no worries, you can reattach it right here. This part is actually one of the most difficult parts in transforming this figure. But if you do have Studio Series number 48, Megatron, he does transform the exact same process as number 34, as I'm showing you right now. Just make sure that everything tabs in. So right now I tabbed in the other arm, so now just tab in this arm. So just tab it in. Like I said, it is very hard to put it inside. Just make sure that it does click inside, and it does keep deattaching. But that is one major flaw that this figure does have. That these pieces are like I don't think Hasbro really thought of how difficult it is actually to transform him in his robot form and his car form. Like, it's difficult to put him in his car form, but his robot form is pretty simple. Like, it feels like 4 steps. Just make sure that everything tabs inside right there. Do the same thing to the second arm. Just as it is very difficult to transform, I will just skip this little part and then just show him how to tab in the other parts. Okay, so now I tabbed in the pieces correctly this time, and they deattached. Okay, so now they're tabbed in nice and secure. So what you're gonna have to do after that is get this chest plate, push it down. Make sure that once these parts deattach, just push them back inside. Just make sure that when they get pushed back inside that they're secure and locked. And then there is this tiny little tab that is on this part of the Mack truck. Make sure that it just slides inside right there. Do the same thing to that side and there. And now for the top, you're just gonna have to make sure that the feet tab inside that top part. And there you have Studio Series Megatron in his transformed, somewhat of a Mack truck form. And personally, I do not like the transformation, as it is quite difficult, but it's nice. I know, nice amount of playtime and everything. Now about to store his weapon accessory. There is a tiny little slot right here that will tab into right here. So what you're gonna have to do is just gently just push it inside. Right there, just push it in and there. Okay, so now you're gonna have to put his cloak on. It is an option to put his cloak on the car. I think it looks cool and everything, but I think you just have to fold it in a certain way so that it could look way better. But also, after that, you're gonna have to get his chains and attach them to these tiny little slots that appear right here. So just push them inside right here. Do the same process to that side right there, and then do the same little process to that side. And make sure, because one side is larger than the other, make sure that the larger sides do go like this. But it is just an option to put these accessories on. I do not recommend it, as it is difficult and it will destroy Megatron from transforming. Now let's transform him back into his robot form. So you're just gonna have to take out his weapon accessory and just do everything we did, but in reverse. So first take out his chest plate and take out his arms. Make sure that they are folded out. Make sure that they fold out like that. Deattach these parts right here. Separate his feet from each other. After that, make sure that you move his knees like that, and do the same as you have noticed that the knees automatically move. So just hold the knee down, and then do the same process. Move his knees like that, then like this. After that, tap out his toes. Then you're gonna have to curl in all these body parts that were once the front part of the truck. And then do that right there. Then do the same process to this side. Fold in all the body parts of the truck and make sure that they tab into together. And there. The feet are ready. The feet are ready. Now one spot that's left is where the back of the truck was and where his shoulders were. So just separate them. Just separate them like that. And then they did deattach again. So just push them, just peg them back inside, right there. Just make sure that they do attach and everything. So you do see this little area right here. We'll tab it into this little slot right there. Just gonna have to click it in. as I told you before, it is difficult to reattach the body parts, but still, just keep having them in. Overall, what I think about this figure is that it's nice and all, but it is hard to transform into his car. I do recommend just leaving him in his robot form for if you do collect Transformers like I do. Just leave him there for like to show and everything. So that it looks better in his this figure looks better in its robot form than its car form, as the car form is difficult and impossible to not impossible, but I have done it once, but it is hard to transform. Just gonna have to make sure everything tabs into together and everything. After that, get his back right here. Make sure it tabs inside these two little slots. We'll tab it. These two little tabs will tab into those slots. Just push them in. Right there. Just push them in. After that, adjust his legs to pose and to your desire and everything. After that, get his weapon accessory and put it in his hand. After that, get his chains. Make sure that this double chain is on the left side and is on the lower left side. From where you're standing, it's on the left, but from where Megatron would be standing, it would be on his right. So just tap in the chains into those slots right here. Just make sure that they are tapped inside together. And then get his cloak. Get his cloak and then just tab it in, as there is like a little spot for his head right here. Just tab it in. Just place it down like that. And then you can adjust the cloak to your sole desire to make it look like it's windy. And there you have Studio Series Megatron in his robot form, all complete. So overall, what I think about this figure, I'd give it a 3 stars out of 5, due to the fact that he is hard to transform and he does not look that accurate to how he does in the film. The legs, the thighs, and the body is fine. Just the toes and the legs do not look that accurate. I would have preferred if the hand had some more articulation, but overall, this is a good figure. I really do enjoy that it did come with this miniature Igor figure, and it does have a special place to tab into his shoulder. So although he never showed up in his shoulder in the film, there are two little slots right here on his feet. We'll tab into Megatron's shoulder right here. Just so you could just tab them inside right there. Just push them inside. And there you have Igor on Megatron's shoulders. And personally, I think this is a nice figure in his robot form. In his car form, it looks nice, but it is actually very hard to transform. And also, one other thing is that if you do put the cloak on, it will obstruct Megatron's view and Igor's, because Igor is now standing on his shoulder. But if you place him off and place the cloak back on, it does look better and everything. So overall, some final thoughts about this figure is that I do like all the molding in his plate. It does feel a bit hollow. It does feel sturdy and everything, nice and everything. And you can make a bunch of iconic movie scenes with this specific figure. And also, just for one little final thing, is that if you already have Studio Series 44 Leader Class Optimus Prime, and you want to know how big Megatron's car form is, here's a simple look of how Megatron's car form is toward how big it would be around Optimus Prime's car form, and it would like around Sentinel Prime's. Between both of these, Megatron would be around that area. So So overall, this figure is nice and everything. I do love all the accessories that are incorporated with this figure. Although I would have loved to add more paint applications to this figure, like more silver paint applications. But overall, great figure and everything. Well, that concludes our Transformers Studio Series 34 Leader Class Megatron review. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, leave a nice comment. Until then, I will see you at our next Transformers Studio Series video. Goodbye.